Alrighty. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. How y'all doing today? I hope you all had an amazing Mother's Day this past weekend. Let me know, did you all celebrate? How you guys doing? Awesome. Just checking to make sure all my tech is working, my microphone is on, you guys can hear me, see me. If you're joining me live and you can hear me and see me, let me know in the comments that you can hear me and see me so I know we're all good. Sometimes forget to turn my microphone on. That has totally happened before. How you guys doing? Today I'm bringing you a training, something that I haven't talked about in a while because lately I've just been talking about marketing, offers, niches, sales, making offers to people, all of those things. And I haven't talked about something that I talk about all the time with my clients, and it's something that's really valuable to them. So I figured I'd bring it here to you on this live today. And the topic that we're going to be diving into is something that all of us have. Every single human on the planet has to address, has to deal with. And it doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter if you are the richest man on the planet or who you are, where you're at in life, and what experiences you've had. We all deal with fear. Let me know in the comments if you have felt fear at any point in the last week. Let me know if there's something that you've been afraid of, or if you felt the feeling of fear at any point in the last week. I want to hear from you. Give me a yes in the comments. And it's this really interesting topic to talk about because I think a lot of times we think the idea of being afraid is kind of, it makes us weak, or we're afraid to admit it. We're afraid to talk about our fear, right? But it just makes us human. Every single human on the planet deals with this. I want to dive into this idea of fear and the difference between people who have really learned to harness their fear and use it to leave a legacy on this planet, which I'm hoping every single one of you in here is looking to do. If you're called to be a coach and you know you're put on this planet to help people and heal people, right? Then you're here to leave a legacy. And it doesn't matter who you can think of it. If you think of a person that you look up to, someone that you think really made an impact on this planet, that person still had to deal with fear. So I want to talk about this topic today because how you behave when you deal with fear, how you let fear impact your life, is going to make or break the kind of legacy that you are able to leave when we all draw our last breath on this planet. All right? So who is down to talk about fear in a way that is empowering and in a way that actually serves us? Well, let me know in the comments if you want to actually have some ways to reframe how you think about fear in a way that's empowering and in a way that serves you. So often we've been taught, or we've been modeled in our life to think about fear as, this thing that just happens to us, right? And because we're feeling it, right? Fear is in the category of a feeling. Because we're feeling fear, our brains recognize that as a valid reason not to do something, right? And if you're a parent, you've probably experienced this with your children, where they have said they wanted to do something and you ask them, well, why aren't you doing it? Well, I'm afraid. I was too scared. And so often in our life, we use fear as a valid reason not to do something. So I want to offer to you today, if you have a goal in your life, something that you want to do and you're afraid, it doesn't mean to your brain that it's not a valid reason to do the thing that you're put on this planet to do. So I want to give you permission to let go of that story, if that's something that is there for you, right? So what is fear then? Fear is a feeling that's coming from something that our brains are telling us, right? It's coming from a thought that we are having. All of our thoughts create feelings, right? They create positive feelings, negative feelings. Fear is a feeling. It comes from something that we are thinking, right? So I want to chat about this and why I think that fear, first and foremost, I never subscribe to the belief that, because I'm anxious, because I'm afraid, that it's a valid reason or a valid excuse not to be putting our work out into the world. Because when I ask clients, sometimes I'll ask clients if they're dealing with a lot of fear, why aren't you taking action on their business, right? With clients when they're working on something, putting an offer out into the world, writing an email, whatever it is. Why aren't you taking action? Why didn't you make the offer? And the reason is, because I'm afraid of failure, or I'm afraid of success, as if that's a valid reason, right? It's fine to be afraid of success. It's fine to be afraid of failure because you're a human being, and it's an emotion that no matter what human you're addressing on the planet, they all experience it, right? And it's okay to feel the fear and address it, but you need to go about it in the right way, okay? So I want to teach you how to approach this concept of fear in a way that's going to serve you and really propel you forward, not just this week, but the rest of the month, the rest of 2021, and the rest of your time on this planet, all right? It's one of those concepts that once you wrap your mind around fear, the concept of fear, you're able to see how you start reacting differently in your life and showing up and playing so much bigger in your own life, right? So first and foremost, we need to recognize that fear does not mean that something has gone wrong, okay? Those of you taking notes, write this down. Fear does not mean that something has gone wrong. Fear means that you're a human being and you are wired for survival. So when you come across a bear in the middle of the forest, right, and that fear is telling you to run away, to get the heck out of Dodge, right? It's keeping you from something that is looking to eat you, right? Or could eat you easily, right? It's there to take care of you, right? So fear doesn't always mean something has gone horribly wrong. So often our knee-jerk reaction when we're feeling that emotion in our body, that vibration in our body, we think something's gone horribly wrong. Uh-oh. Fear is actually there to serve us, right? In so many ways. It's been there for so many years. It's served us well. It's kept us alive on this planet. It's kept us out of harm's way. But nowadays, it's not as necessary to be programmed the way that we're using it. In 2021, the way that our brains are still programmed to use fear isn't serving us the way it used to when we were constantly on the lookout for bears and tigers and wild animals. So I think it's important, number one, if you want to live an empowered life and use fear to your advantage, it's important that you accept fear, that it's going to be a normal part of your life, that it's going to be there. Like, be okay with having it come along with you, come along for the ride the rest of your life. Who is down to sign up for that? If I told you that in order for you to leave a legacy and to fulfill your purpose and fulfill your calling and do what you're here to do, you're going to have to bring fear along with you. Who would sign up for that? Let me know in the comments if you would sign up for that ride. Are you willing to show up and do what you're put on this planet to do if you know that fear is going to be there the whole time? Some of you might say no. Some of you might have to pause and think about it. How committed are you to taking action towards the thing that you're here to do? We don't know how many years we have on the planet. Some of us have a very short time on this planet. Some of us have many, many years on this planet, right? And none of that has anything to do with how much of an impact and how much of a legacy you get to leave when you end your time here on this planet. But how you view fear, how you act in the midst of fear it will impact what you do with whatever amount of time and years you have left on this planet. Okay, so accepting fear and allow it to come along on the ride, right? It's really going to help you move forward, right? Fear does not mean stop. Fear does not mean do not pass go until you feel calm and comfortable, right? History can show this over and over and over again. People who have left a legacy, who took action even under fearful and scary circumstances, right? So when we think about showing up big in the world and actually taking action towards our calling, putting ourselves out there, letting the world know we're here, and we feel the fear, I'm getting so tongue-tied, feel the fear, right? It doesn't mean that you can't take action. You do not have to feel fearless before you take action. In fact, sometimes taking action when you're acknowledging the fear is one of the most powerful, empowering things that you can do. How many times have you done something that scared you and did it anyway and felt a rush on the other side of it, right? Have you ever been on a roller coaster when you're terrified of heights, right? Or jumped off a cliff into a lagoon when you're terrified of heights? Doing things that scare you can be one of the most powerful things that you ever do. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, right? But let's talk a little bit more about where fear comes from so that we can understand it, because sometimes when we understand things, we are less afraid, right? I think that for 90% of the times in our life when we're afraid of fear, it's coming from this very catastrophic thinking in our mind, right? That's why fear is irrational. It pretends to be necessary in our life on a day-to-day basis. It pretends to be relevant, right? We're creating this fear with our own mind and letting it stop us, right? So the only exception to this would be, obviously, the example we used earlier of the bear, right? When we're in immediate danger, not future danger that we're afraid of happening, immediate life or death threat, right? How many of you have ever, I grew up in Michigan, I grew up where it was cold, snowy, and icy. How many of you have ever driven in the winter in a location and hit black ice before? Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced black ice. Right? That's a fear that you won't forget feeling when you're losing control of your vehicle because you just hit black ice. Let me know in the comments if I'm the only one. Right? So when you get that stimulus, that fear completely bypasses that thinking part of your brain, right? The thalamus. It just skips. It goes straight into the amygdala, right? That fight or flight taking over, right? So your brain doesn't have time to process what's going on. It goes straight to danger and get out of this situation ASAP, right? Dina, I did a 360 on the highway, right? Talk about fear in that moment. People talk about having their life flash before their eyes. So there are situations when fear is there to keep us alive, right? But when it comes to living our purpose and living our calling, we get it confused and we think, uh-oh, same thing's happening right now. Is this making sense? Sometimes we think that because we're feeling fear, that it's the exact same situation. We remember that time when we were in actual danger, when we were on black ice, and we needed to get out of there. We needed to turn the wheels the right direction to get control of the vehicle again, right? So it's good for us to be able to recognize that in a life or death situation and be able to react quickly and have adrenaline pumping through us, right? So we can get out of there and save our life. However, the flip side of this is when we are doing something we've never done before, or we have a goal or an aspiration, right? There are some people who feel crippled by fear in so many ways. So there's no immediate harm, but the brain is going to that future place and assuming that the danger is too high, and it causes them not to show up. And the worst thing that you can do is live your life in this pattern of making decisions from fear and tell yourself a story that it's a sign to not live your purpose. Oh, this is a sign that I shouldn't go this way. And so that's why I'm talking about fear today, because there's so many coaches on this planet right now who don't even haven't even scratched the surface on the potential and the impact they could leave on this earth. But every time fear pops up, we trigger this reaction in our brain that it's a sign we're not ready. It's a sign we shouldn't be doing this, or it's a sign maybe we have the wrong idea. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe this isn't something we can actually do, right? How many of you have ever felt that way? I'm raising my hand. I know I have. One of the things that's great about fear, if you know how to harness it, is it can get you into action quickly, right? So you can practice using fear to your advantage. Once you become aware and you know what it actually feels like in your body, you can become aware that it's happening and use it to trigger a response that says, oh, I'm feeling fear, means I need to take action, means I need to do this, means I need to just jump. The longer you stand on the cliff staring down at the water on the lagoon in Hawaii, standing over, looking down, the less likely it is you're gonna jump and do the thing you really wanted to do. Everybody else did it. You don't want to miss out on this experience. You've never been to Hawaii before. You're never gonna go back. And the longer you stand there and feel the fear, the less likely you are to jump. So one of the things you can do to harness fear is make that a trigger for you. A trigger emotion that says, you know what? I felt this before. It's a symptom that I need to take action. Because if I don't take action, I won't show up in my life. This is the pattern of how I've been letting fear control me. This is my clue. I'm feeling that emotion. It's familiar emotion. I need to jump. I need to experience what it feels like to have that lagoon water crash over my body and that adrenaline, right? So fear can be used as a tool. Fear can be used as something that causes us to pay attention. And we can, every time we practice having a different reaction to fear, taking action instead of walking down the trail, going all the way back down the trail to meet them at the beach because you didn't jump, using it as a trigger to take action, every time you do that, you strengthen a muscle inside your body. You strengthen a muscle inside your mind. and you tell yourself, hey, this is my identity. This is how I show up in the world. I can do hard things, right? Think about bodybuilders, think about athletes, people that put their muscle under a lot of tension and strain, and that lactic acid, that burn that we feel when we're exercising and it hurts. Like on a leg day when your legs feel like jello and it's burning and you can't do another rep, right? Those athletes have built up a tolerance to that uncomfortable feeling in their body, and they're able to perform at a higher level when most people would quit because it became uncomfortable. We can do the same thing with the emotion of fear. How many of you knew that? Every time that you practice showing up differently when you feel uncomfortable, when you feel afraid, and you do it anyway, you're teaching yourself to have a new identity. You're the person that can do hard things. Think about that for a minute. So if that is the antidote to living an empowered life, what does that mean? That means we have to be willing to feel uncomfortable. We have to be willing to feel negative emotions if we want to show up as the best version of ourselves, if we want to show up at a higher level and play a bigger game in this world. Right? So just like you can break that pattern, you can also strengthen that pattern of this is just who I am, this is just how I do things, this is just how I react, this is just how I feel. Every time you choose to let fear control you and hold you back in life, you're strengthening a different muscle, a different identity in your brain, right? So ask yourself every day when you wake up, ask yourself, which identity do I want to strengthen today? Am I the person that brings fear along with me every day, that does hard things, that feels fear, recognizes it's normal, makes me human, and goes out and does the thing anyway? Who do you want to show up as? And you get to decide that every day when your feet hit the ground and you get out of bed and you set your intention for the day, you can ask yourself, how do I want to approach fear today? What is my intention for fear today? Then you're able to go out there and recognize every time you feel fear, oh, this one was the illogical one. There was no bear there. Oh, yep, this was that irrational fear that was coming up, and I broke that pattern today. Today was the day I did that thing. Maybe it's going up and speaking to a stranger. Right? Maybe it's going up and saying something to someone you wouldn't normally talk to them, and you go up and you say something nice to a stranger. But normally that would have made you feel afraid, right? So when you're able to go out there and actually take action, right? Then you realize you're not going to die at the hand of the bear or the tiger, right? You realize you're going to be fine. There's a lot of research behind this phenomena, the phenomena of fear in the human brain. There's a lot of psychology behind this, right? Phobias. Some people have severe phobias, right? Fear of spiders, fear of snakes. How many of you have like an actual like phobia of something? Put it in the comments. What is it that you feel deathly afraid of? Like an actual phobia? Claustrophobia? What is it for you, if you have one? How many of you knew one of the ways that they actually treat these phobias is something called exposure therapy, right? So if someone's afraid of snakes or afraid of spiders, by the way, this sounds absolutely horrible. I hate spiders. But if I decide that I have a goal for my life where I don't want to let that hold me back, and I realize that that fear is holding me back, right? Exposure therapy, going in and saying, okay, expose me to the snake, expose me to the spider, right? In a controlled, safe environment. Now we're able to make a new association. Okay, I guess snakes aren't that scary. I don't have to love this snake, or I don't have to love the spider. But I guess it's not the death, the deathly object that I was viewing it to be. Can do the exact same things with anything that we're quote unquote irrationally afraid of. We can expose ourselves to it and learn that it's not that scary, right? So if it's betting on yourself and now it's time to commit and you're afraid of failure, afraid of how your life would change if you succeeded, you can use that same principle that we've used over the years of studying fears and say, okay, I need to do some exposure therapy right now. Okay, I'm not going to run out of the room from the spider. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to expose myself to it, take action, and be on the other side of it knowing, oh, okay, I survived. I was okay. The worst case scenario didn't even happen, right? And ask yourself, make a list of the things that you feel are holding you back right now. The things that fear is keeping you from doing, that's keeping you from fulfilling your purpose and your calling. Ask yourself, write it all out on paper. What are the things that I'm afraid of today that are keeping me from moving forward? And what's the worst case scenario if I took action on it? What would be the very worst thing that would happen? I've shared this story with some of you before. How many of you knew I used to play the violin? Some of you know this about me. Some of you, a lot of you probably don't. I used to play the violin, actually was like a music student in college, right? So I was in the School of Music. And at the end of the semester, we have this recital, right? In the auditorium at the university. And what's the worst thing that can happen to a performer? Somebody put it in the comments, the very worst thing. People who have performance anxiety, what is the thing that we're most afraid of happening? Somebody tell me what it is. And I'm going to share with you this story that happened to me. What do you think is the worst thing that could happen? If you're a performer, if you play an instrument or you sing, what's the worst thing that you could possibly be afraid of and nervous about? Forgetting the notes. Yeah, forgetting what you're up there to do. Just like completely, like, messing up is something we're afraid of, or like just completely forgetting. Drop your instrument, that's a good one too, right? Especially when you have sweaty hands, right? But the worst thing that could happen is you could just forget what you're up there to sing. Like that would be like forgetting the lyrics in the middle of your song, right? So how many of you know this story? That actually happened to me, okay? And it didn't happen to me when I was like 7 years old at my first recital. I've been doing this for a long time. I've auditioned. I've done many recitals. Now I'm at university level in front of the whole School of Music, and I forgot the notes. I literally forgot what I was supposed to be playing. It never happened to me before in my whole entire career, my years and years of playing. First time, and it's literally the worst thing that could happen. The thing that we're most afraid of. And you know what happened? So in the middle of playing my Bach partita, I forgot the song. I forgot the notes. I realized I was forgetting the notes. As it's happening, I'm having this kind of out-of-body experience where I realize this is happening to me for the first time ever. And then I went back and I repeated a few lines, and then I kind of finished the song, right? And I got backstage, and you know what the funniest thing that happened? What do you think would be the reaction to your worst experience happening as a performer? The worst thing that could happen to you happened. What do you think was in the aftermath of that? I realized something very, very important for the rest of my life. And I really truly believe that I had this experience for a reason, because it taught me such a powerful lesson. You know what it taught me? Was that I was okay. I was completely fine. Nothing horrible happened from that worst case scenario where I forgot my lines and I was feeling the fear. This is happening. I was okay. And I know it might sound silly to someone who's never played an instrument before, never had to perform before, but there are a lot of musicians who deal with this type of anxiety and fear, right? And that lesson, it was so profound because I always had that anxiety before a performance. I always had that fear of that thing, that worst case scenario, that people would judge me, that my peers would think I must not have been prepared, or whatever they would think, and that I would just not be able to handle the shame of bombing in front of everyone. I was totally okay. And that stayed with me, and it served me the rest of my life. Because after that, I started to look at worst case scenarios and think, what's the worst that could happen? I'm afraid right now. What's the absolute worst thing that could happen? Total failure? What would that look like? And play it all out. Like, be as dramatic as possible. And oftentimes when you allow yourself, your brain to actually go there, to go to that worst case scenario, you realize that A, it's not so bad, or B, your brain is being a little bit illogical and that's not actually going to happen. Right? But so often we're in this pattern and we live every single year, every single decade on repeat, approaching fear without stopping to think it through, without stopping to take a look at it. We haven't practiced that skill. It's a skill you can develop to stop and analyze fear that way, right? To recognize it in the midst of it happening, in the midst of it taking over your body, right? Most of us don't do that. Most of us are having knee-jerk reactions to fear, where we either run the opposite direction of the thing that's scaring us, we just don't do it. We don't do the thing that's scaring us, which again, it's useful if it's signaling danger, right? Like, hey, don't drive your car into oncoming traffic. Very useful reaction, right? But when there's not real danger, and we're just afraid that we won't be able to handle a certain emotion, like the emotion we would feel if we failed, the emotion we would feel if people judged us or were disappointed in us. Think it all the way through. What's the worst that could happen? This thing that I'm afraid of today. Right? Being able to take action, feeling a little bit of fear, being able to carry it with you, and still live your life and still show up in a big way, even though you're nervous, even though it's scary, even though you're anxious, knowing that it's just your mind creating that will allow you to leave such a big impact on this planet. So there's two really important things that you should know about fear. One, most of us don't actually feel fear. Most of us spend time avoiding feeling fear. But if you actually allowed yourself to feel it, just like that example I shared with you at that recital, like actually allowing myself to feel it, right? You realize there's not really anything that scary happening. What's the worst thing that you feel before you're about to get on a roller coaster? Your heart is racing. Maybe you're shaking a little bit. Your muscles are tensing up. But when you think about it that way, you just describe it that way, that doesn't sound so bad. What's so horrible about that? Right? What's the worst thing that could happen as a result of just sitting there and experiencing, my heart is beating faster, my palms are sweating, that's so interesting. Most of the time, if you sit and you actually fully experience the fear, it's not as bad as being afraid and resisting and pushing away from that fear. Right? How about we just allow it to come with us and embody us along this whole human experience? So many clients have reactions, right? Some clients eat when they feel fear. How many of you have clients that eat when they're feeling fear and anxious? That's their knee-jerk reaction. How many of you have clients that drink when they're feeling fear? Right? A lot of times my clients will go distract themselves with work, busy work, instead of doing the thing that they're afraid of. So when you learn how to just embrace it and sit with it instead of resisting it and avoiding it and going and doing something else and looping back into past behaviors, right, you'll see that there's really not that much to be afraid of. I really want to recommend that to you. I really want you to do that. Try to just sit with it and be present with it. When you're feeling fear and just experience it. Because then you're bringing awareness into the situation. Now you're present. You're like, oh, I'm actually at this point where I'm feeling fear. What do I want to do? Oh, I remember I told myself the last time I felt this way, I was just going to jump. I'm not just going to stand here and freeze up or turn around and go back down the mountain. Right? Super important. And I want you to think about this because a lot of times, I know there's some of you listening right now who have this fear of making the wrong decision. Right? Let me know if that's you. Go into the comments, raise your hand if you have a fear of making the wrong decision. And that's why you feel like you can't jump. That's why you feel paralyzed. Right? You have to be onto yourself with these patterns, right? That's another way that many of us will avoid feeling fear and allowing it to be there, right? So really, we have this fear that we need to overcome in order to get to the goal that we want. But instead of acknowledging it and owning the fear and moving towards it and saying, oh, okay, what I need to do is go actually through the fear. I can't go around it. I can't go underneath it. This is what's happening. I actually just need to move through the fear. That's the only way I'm going to get to the other side. What we do, what our brains tell us is the very logical thing to do is we just kind of hang out in front of it and we tell ourselves we're confused or we don't know or we can't make a decision. So you need to be onto yourself today if that's a pattern that's been showing up for you. Because as long as you're saying that, as long as you're telling your brain that's the reason, it's not fear, it's all this other stuff. It's confusion, it's not knowing what the right decision is, it's not knowing if I can do it. Then we have an excuse not to move forward. Then we have an excuse not to move through our fear, right? That makes much more sense. But you can't avoid fear and get anywhere. You can't go around it. You have to go through it. I know, I have such great news for you today. I'm full of all of the great secrets to avoid having to deal with fear. The secret is there is no secret. You have to ask yourself if you're willing to bring it with you. Right? The reason why you don't want to make a decision, if you're scared of something and it's been causing you not to make a decision, the reason why, if you really think it through, is because you're afraid of making the wrong decision. Right? And I want you to think about this. This is really one of the best secrets that I can give you, is that 90% of the time, fear is unnecessary, right? It's just something that we've created to keep us from moving forward. You're not going to die unless you're driving into oncoming traffic or running towards a bear. It's going to be okay. You can send the email. You can make the offer. You are not going to die, right? Nothing horrible or gruesome is going to happen, I promise you. You might stumble, you might make some mistakes, you might even acquire some failures along the way. In fact, if you plan to leave an impact on this planet and fulfill your purpose and calling, that is going to happen. So good, stop avoiding it. The goal is to get it to happen faster so we can get to the other side. Think about that. When you look at people who've actually created a life that they want to create, something that you really admire, and you say, you know what? Wow, they were fearless. They are so inspiring. The truth is, nobody is fearless. We all have it. The lie is that we think they're not feeling it, right? And I think that's kind of reassuring to know that people that we're looking up to as successful, they don't have a superpower that keeps them safe and comfortable, right? People that are crazy successful and really prominent in the world, prominent in our industry, people that have made changes that we aspire to make ourselves in this world, that created so many things in their life and impacted so many people. It's so reassuring and empowering to know that, hey, they're feeling just as much fear as I probably feel right now. They've just trained themselves to have a different reaction. I just need to relearn my reactions to fear. I need to practice reacting differently, taking different action. It's the only thing that stands between what you've created in your life right now and where you want to be and the results you want to create in your life. It's just the sum of your decision making and your behaviors. And knowing that we all have fear, it's just a matter of how are they reacting differently. I think that's so reassuring to know. Knowing that they have fear, those successful people, the people that I look up to and think that are so much more advanced than me, right? And they're just having the fear and doing it anyway. And you can too. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit down and I want you to list out and I want you to write down everything you're afraid of, everything that's holding you back right now from fulfilling your calling, from living in your purpose every day, from taking massive action towards creating in your life, towards the goal that you have. I want you to write it all down. I want you to acknowledge it, expose it for what it is that you're resisting, what it is that you're afraid of. And I want you to continue to move forward. I want you to take it with you and continue to move forward. I want you to understand that fear does not have to paralyze you when you utilize it properly. It can be one of the most powerful sources of energy that you use in your life if you take it with you and you're paying attention, right? Use that skill, hijack other people's ability to do that to get you through it. Use that as your fuel, right? I get it. Starting and growing a business is hard. It's scary. It forces you to expose all of your insecurities, all of your doubts, all of your demons. It feels dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. It is dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, right? You can waste a lot of time, a lot of money doing the wrong things if you've never done it before or trying to go it alone. I totally get that. Yes, it's scary. But I'm speaking to the people here who actually have a reason behind what they're looking to do, who actually have a calling and a purpose. So find an expert who's done it before, right? Do you want to have someone who's already done the scary thing, knows where all of the landmines are, knows where all the pitfalls are, shows you how to avoid them, shows you where to go and which things to do, even if it is something scary that you're going to have to do. They're going to show you which thing to do. Or do you want to sit in inaction because you're afraid of those landmines? You're afraid of all those worst case scenarios that you listed out that are holding you back right now. Think about that. Which person do you want to be? Which person is using fear to propel them forward with courage? Which person is allowing fear to paralyze them? Which person will leave this earth creating a bigger impact, using their purpose and their calling while they are here? And you can answer that question to yourself. You don't have to put that in the chat. Think about which person you're choosing to be. So if this makes sense to you, my friends, and you're looking at your calling, and you know that you have a purpose to fulfill, and you don't know how many years you have left, but you know you're on this earth for a reason, you know you have a purpose to fulfill, and you're realizing, just even talking through this with me right now, that you're paralyzed at some level. It doesn't go away unless you take action. So I want to invite you guys to be brave. I want to invite you guys to set up a time to talk to our team. Go into the comments and type talk to find out if we can help you with something that's been holding you back. Talk to someone about it. Go into the comments and type talk so we'll know to reach out to you. So we'll know that you want to connect and have a conversation about your purpose, your mission, your dream. Because at the end of the day, guys, if you're not living your dream, you are missing something. And a lot of times the main thing getting in your own way is just fear. Fear is really tricky, right? All kinds of coping mechanisms, all kinds of stories that we tell ourselves. If you really break it all down and expose it at its root, it's just fear. We're afraid of something. Afraid of what will happen if we fail, right? So I can't give you a calling. I can't give you a purpose. I know you have one. I know we all do as humans on this planet, right? I can't tell you what that is. So if you don't think that you're here to make a difference, if you don't think that you're here to help people, we can't choose that for you. You have to know that you're here to help. You're here to add value to those who need you. Bottom line, end of the day, that's why life is so important. Because if you do that, right? If you have that and you have that desire to serve and heal and help others, think about the difference that we can all make. If every single one of us was living our life that way. Go into the comments and type talk and let our team help you. Maybe we can help you realize what's the next step. What's that one next step you need to take? If you're not sure, or if you're having confusion about that, talk to someone who's already gone down that path, who's seen every landmine you could possibly be up against, who can help you come up with a specific plan to circumvent that and keep moving forward so you can make an impact. I know you're on this planet for a specific reason. Okay, and so your success is going to be directly correlated to the number of people you help out of suffering and pain. How many people's problems can you solve? So if we can help you with that, we'll absolutely give that to you, show you exactly how to do that, what that looks like. If there's something better out there, we're going to steer you towards that so that you can go out there and help more people and solve more problems and leave a bigger impact. Either way, we are contributing to that, whichever direction we steer you in. Don't go through life paralyzed by fear. Afraid to show up in the world, afraid to take up space, afraid to be seen, afraid to speak up, afraid to ask for help. Get someone in your life that you can talk to who can help you right now so you can take the next step, whatever that is for you. All right, go into the comments, type talk. Would love to connect with you, love to chat with you, hear about your calling, hear about your mission, hear about what it is that you're looking to fulfill with your coaching business. Go into the comments, type talk. We'll reach out to you. We'll connect with you soon. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.